All right, we're getting there. We're making a lot of progress here. So what's going to happen is I should have something pop on the screen, a frame that looks like a window frame almost. That's 200 by 300 by 200, and that the top of it should have a title of my frame. A label should have my label goes here. And when I hover over it, it should say hover over text. Now just below that are some important code as well. So I want to explain this to you as well. Once again, I want to run this from my main. Right? I need main to actually run a Java program. So I'm going to create a class within this class, which is called main static void main string parenthesis args. Now we've seen this over and over again, no problem here. I am once again going to create an instance of simple frame. I'm going to call it myFrameIs, and this is the whole mechanism for doing that. Now here's a very important piece of code. myFrameIs.setDefaultClose operation JFrame.exit on close. Now when I close a window that comes up, it's going to go away, but the code's going to keep running. So that's going to mess you up. So to make sure that the code is closed as well, I got to use jframe.exit on close. Just another extra piece of programming for you. Okay, and you'll be seeing this over and over again. And I'm going to now what? My frame is going to set it visible equal to true. Okay? So at this point, let me go ahead and run this program so you can see it. I'll bring this down. It produced this nice little window for me. You see that? And I roll over the label and it says hover over text. Isn't that nice? Yeah, it's nice. Now let me come along here and let me set my frame is .set to false. I'm trying to type with one hand. Okay, here. Now let's try to run the program and see if it shows. It didn't show. Okay, now why did it not show here, but it did show on the J option pane? Because in the J option pane is not the method set visible. That was a mistake for me to put that in the previous program. The set visible did not exist in the J option pane. The set visible exists though in JFrame. You see that? That's why it's working now and didn't work before, because the method didn't exist. All right. It does exist here, so that was the issue right there. So you can see now when you set it equal to true, it's visible, and when you set it equal to false, it's not visible. And that can become very powerful and useful in programs that you run in the future. There you go. And now you can build containers to put all wonderful types of things in. How are we doing? And so that's kind of an introduction. I mean, you know, the thing about it is there's just a form, there's a set way of doing this, and you just do the same thing over and over again. And you just need to learn how to work with all these different containers. And really the first one is JFrame. Okay, that's the primary container, and we're going to put containers in that. So as I added a label, I'm also going to add buttons. Okay? So you ready to go to a more advanced example now? Great. Let me take a look at the notes and see where we're at. And we're coming along here pretty good. And what I want to do, you know what, I think before we go to an advanced example, I'm actually going to go to something simple. So let's go down to the notes. And in the notes I got our first example. So it's not our first example, we've already done a first example. But it is in a sense a very, very easy example. And we're going to start with that. We're going to move through this, and then we're going to move to a button example if we have time. And we'll start getting into all of this cool stuff you can do. And then maybe tic-tac-toe this time, maybe next time. But definitely getting a lot of good swing here today. So I'm going to go to my next example, which is called simple button. Let's go right there, or simple, I think. And let's bring that up. And this really is kind of my Java hello world, and this is kind of where we'd wanted to start, but I had to give you a lot of background. So once again, I'm going to use the Java JFrame, and so I import that, and I'm going to create a class called simple, and I'm going to extend JFrame. And this might make you feel a little bit better. You don't see any super here, so you should feel a little bit better about anything. But if I'm not going to use the super, then I need to do what? Set my title. You see that? If I put super in there and just put the title, it knows, hey, that's the first method in super. Let's run it. That's the first method in JFrame. Let's run it and put the title in. But if I don't put super in there, then I'm going to have to set the title. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to set the title equal to simple. And here, as opposed to putting this in the main string down here, I went ahead and just put set default close operation exit unclose. All right. And what that means is the program won't keep running once I exit it. And then in the main string right down here, I'm going to go ahead and, in a sense, create an instance. And I'm going to set that instance to visible. So this is really simple, probably simpler than the example we did last. Let's run the program. And notice that it's sticking it all at the top of my screen. And here's the title right here. Let me expand this a little bit. Simple. So you see it puts simple right up there at the top. Nothing's in there because I didn't add a button and I didn't add a label to it. And when I close it, the program starts running. That's it. That's kind of your hello world. Let's move on from here. Now, what I'm kind of pained about is that this whole thing is not centering it on the screen, because each time I run the program, I have to go back and get it. So I need to come up with a method for centering this pane on the screen, or this JFrame on the screen, so I don't have to drag it down every time. I don't want my user to do that either, right? So there's a way to do that, and let me see if I got the name of that's going to be Center on Screen. So let's go to that app right there. So Center on Screen app is what I'm going to do. So basically, I just went to my program here and created a class called Center on Screen. Inside of that, now I got to add the aught dimension. Okay, that's going to allow me to grab dimensions, and a new class here called Toolkit. And Toolkit's going to allow me, in a sense, to grab the dimensions of the screen. All right. Got to add JFrame as well. And I'm just going to create this center on screen, and I'm going to extend JFrame so all those methods are available to me, and I don't have to type JFrame dot whatever the method is. Once again, I don't have the super in there anymore, but I'm going to set my title by doing center on screen. And I'm going to set the screen size to 300 by 200. And when I exit, I'm going to have it close and stop the program from running. I'm going to declare from my toolkit an instance of toolkit. You see that method, what I'm doing here? Toolkit equals get toolkit. And then I'm going to declare a dimension called size. And that comes from toolkit screen size. And that's very important because I want to know how big my monitor is, height and width. And so within that size, there's a method called .width, and there's a method .height. So it allows me to run that. And so now I'm going to set the location of my what? JFrame. And it's going to be the size .width / over 2. So it's half the width, half the height. That's the center point of the screen. You got that? But then, wait a second. I got to subtract half the width of the JFrame itself and half the height of the JFrame itself to center it. Do you understand why I'm doing that? If the location point of the JFrame is at the very corner right here, you see that? Then if I center it, it's going to be centered off. So I need to take half of that and bring it over here, and half of that and bring it over here, so everything is centered correctly. Just typical programming stuff. You may not have ever seen this before, but basically I'm putting a center point and going, wait a second, my JFrame's not centered because my registration point is at the upper left. So I need to subtract half of that and half of that to center it in the middle. So after that's done, all I'm going to do, once again, is declare an instance of the center on screen class, and then I'm going to make it visible. So let's run the program, and the title should be center on screen. So let's run it. And suddenly in the center of the screen appears my new box. Ta-da! All right, cool. And so now hopefully this is starting, and when I exit out, it stops running the program. So hopefully this is now starting to make a little bit more sense. These containers are very easy to work with. However, if you're not introduced to them correctly, they can seem really overly complicated, but they're not. They're actually fairly easy to work with. Let's see what else I have to show you in this. I center the screen.